Hello friend, this is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today I want to talk about the coronavirus. Now, let me start this video out by giving you a legal disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to me. Just do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. And now that the boring legal disclaimer is out of the way, let me explain this. The media, various governments, everybody is trying to push and propagate this into being something more than it is. Now, I'm not denigrating the people who have already had issues with this, and some have even passed away, but it needs to be put in perspective because people are fearing and panicking. I've seen videos of people the shopping marts are completely empty because people are just panicking and prepping and buying up a bunch of stuff, buying up toilet paper, fighting each other over toilet paper, and just craziness. And one of the things the media, and this is why I tell people don't watch the news. Stop wasting your time watching the news. Stop watching popular media. It's all propaganda. They want you in fear. And sometimes people say, but I got to be informed. And I tell people this all the time. You don't have to. First thing, you're not being informed by watching the news. You're being programmed. You're being given propaganda. And you're being talked against your own goodwill. But also, when something like this happens and there's some event going on, you'll hear about it. If you have interaction with other people, because 99% of other people are in the news and they're panicking, they're reading, and so you'll hear about it. I guarantee you'll hear about it. You don't have to watch the news to be up to date on what's going on, because you will hear about it from people. But the reason they want you in fear, unfortunately, is because it sells more ad revenue. They get more ad revenue because more people will watch, more people will tune into the news, more people will talk about it and tell their friends, and then they will tune in. And it's just literally just about money. And of course, there's also other people making profit off it, selling hand sanitizer and all kinds of stuff. And then of course the stores make a bunch of money because people are buying up stuff they never buy and never use because they're in a panic. So a lot of people are being funded and profiting from this, and profiting from making you live a life of fear. But here's one of the worst things that occurs from this. Not just because you're running around foolishly like your hair's on fire, but when you're stressed and when you're in fear, you're worried and you're panicking, even if you're not panicking, but you have some fear about you, that weakens your immune system. And you know what that does? That makes you more susceptible to things like the coronavirus and the flu and the cold, which share many similarities as far as the symptoms. And then that creates more panic, which creates more possibility for you to be infected. It's literally a cyclical thing that it creates more of itself. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't let people get you into fear. You have not been given the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. You do not need to be in fear. Now let me put it in perspective, because I'm not telling you to be irresponsible and go around licking door handles and shopping cart handles. If you go to a store, use the hand sanitizer and the wipes and wipe down the carts. Use common sense. You know, if you're walking down the road and there's a big, huge sinkhole, you don't walk into it and fall in. You walk around it. That's not being in fear. That's common sense. That's reasonable, proactive activities. Oh, there's a hole. Let me walk around it. So when there is something going around, an illness, the flu, whatever, you don't have to get into fear. You take the normal, reasonable actions to protect yourself and your family. That's all right. That's not fear-based living. But when you're getting yourself into fear and you're panicking and you're clearing the stores out of their goods because you're in such a panic that this is some big pandemic, and that's the news is going to start. I guarantee you they're going to start propagating that. They'll start calling it a pandemic to get people even more afraid because they love it. They love fear. It's part of the whole propaganda system, and that's what they want to do. They want you panicking and in fear. They want you buying more of the products that are being advertised on their stations, and they want you to tune into them. It gives them more. It's almost like when there's a weather issue going on and the weatherman comes on, he's so happy and he's just talking and babbling and babbling and babbling. Instead of just giving you the information you need, just long babbling and talking about this and talking about, because they're finally in the spotlight. Instead of having a 1 minute segment on the news, now they have the whole entire news program to themselves and just get themselves the attention. And that's very much what is the news can now have special, oh, here's a special report, here's this and that, and they can get you more interested in watching them, get more eyes on them. It's more interest in them. But the propaganda is not going to help you. It's not going to make you a better person. It's not going to help you be healthier. Matter of fact, like I said, because you're in a panic, because you're worried, because you're in this fear state, you've weakened your immune system and you're more susceptible to things like this that otherwise you may not have been. If you're a very old person, obviously there's some concerns, but you take the proper precaution, but you don't live in fear. Living in fear is never good. It never helps you. It never makes you live your best life. It certainly doesn't help you stay healthy and whole. Don't let the media talk you into this. Don't let the media trick you and get you down that spiral of doom and gloom. And what you have to do is also, you have to quarantine, so to speak, yourself from people who are speaking forth fear and living in doom and gloom, which is a lot of people. And there's no reason to panic. Now, thankfully, around where I live, people are not in a panic. I've seen some people saying, oh, here in my state, and the people are just in absolute panic. And that's truly tragic. But there's no reason to live in fear. You have nothing to fear. You take the proper precautions, you're reasonable, but you're not living in fear. You're not in a panic. And when you get into fear, which is basically faith in something that hasn't happened, you rob yourself of God's greater blessings. You rob yourself of the good health that you want. You get the exact opposite results of what you want. Because what you think you want is completely counteracted by the fear. And fear is, in many cases, worse than the coronavirus because it is something that seeps into every area of your life and destroys it. Most people will recover from the coronavirus. But fear is something that can linger on and go throughout your entire life if you don't get rid of it. Now, I want to give you some examples of things going on so you can have a little more of an idea of a good firm basis to understand why you shouldn't be panicking, you shouldn't be in fear. Do you know that today alone, more people will die of starvation, just starvation, something that easily fixable in many cases, except obviously there's some issues with things going on in those situations where there's starvation, but food could fix that. But more people will die from starvation than all the people combined who have died from coronavirus so far. And do you know anyone who's died of starvation? Of course not. Probably not. Hopefully not. Now, there are many issues like that. As far as the flu, I don't know anyone that's died from the flu, but more people have died from the flu by almost 10, 20-fold in the last year alone than died from the coronavirus so far. Now, this isn't to tell you, oh, don't worry, don't do anything, just go and walk and fall into the hole. Of course, you take proper precaution, but you have no reason to be in fear. This is one of those things like you hear that statistic that more people have died from falling vending machines than died from X, Y, and Z. This is one of those things. It's not something to be in a panic about. Stop watching news. Cut off the news. Stop watching that stuff. Stop reading it. Stop filling your mind with that stuff. Listen, out of your heart flow the issues of life. If you're filling your heart with that kind of garbage, what do you think you're going to see in your life? You're going to see illness. You're going to see problems. You're going to see all these things that you don't really want. But because you've given focus to them and you've made them part of who you are through your fear, that's what you're going to experience. Stop letting the media and the world talk you into fear, talk you into doubt, talk you into unbelief, get you in a panic, get you acting irrationally. They don't care about you. They're not concerned with you at all. Matter of fact, they would hope it's a pandemic. That's why they're starting to call it a pandemic now, because they're so desperate and hoping that you'll get into fear and hoping that they can get more viewers, more eyeballs watching them, more people buying the products being advertised, and just a consistent thing keeping them going. You need to cut that off altogether. Stop watching the movies. Stop watching the media. Stop watching the news. Stop reading it. Stop associating with people who are constantly bringing doom and gloom. And yes, a warning's great. Knowing something exists, okay, so you can take proper precaution. If somebody tells you, hey, when you're walking down the road, watch out, there's a big hole. Oh, okay, thanks. You don't need to be afraid. Oh no, where's that hole? I'm afraid, I'm so fearful. You take the proper precautions, you walk around it. Don't live in fear. Don't let people rob you of your joy. Don't let people put you into a state of panic. Walk with God. Be enlightened. Walk in the spirit of grace. Let the Spirit lead you into all truth, and you, my friend, will do well. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.